Thankfully, I've not met individuals like that, but I have met individuals who were hopeless at some point. I've met people who ran into front of a BRT, people who've jumped bridges, people who thought they would take their life and wanted to, they had their mind made up. However, like I said, there's help. So when they come for therapy, and then I help them see, therapists help them see that this is why you're acting like this. This is an illness. This is what you can do. Okay, these are techniques.
All right, let's go the route of religion. We're a very religious country, and it would be very well amiss not to bring this up, because sometimes people want to point fingers at a spiritual reason, e.g. is from your village, it's a spiritual attack. What role does the spiritual realm have in this physical manifestation of depression? Is there a connection, or are they running on parallel lines? Can you actually remove, is everything very scientific, or there's a spiritual angle to some of these things?
I think that's a great question, because like you said, a whole lot of people believe that depression or any male...
Because I think most people don't acknowledge shrinks or doctors because they believe they can either pray their way out of it or they can go to a religious leader who can help them get over it. But somehow, sometimes it doesn't work that way. So a lot of people don't really have that much belief that it is a medical prescription kind of a condition, like your headache or your malaria, where you can take drugs and be okay. Some believe that once you hit that road, then there must be something wrong with you on that level spiritually. Okay,
I think this is the point where we need to do more in terms of raising awareness and educating people about this condition. I think there was a time where people were running to their pastors and spiritual healers when they had cancer too. Okay, there was a time where people thought that malaria was a spiritual problem. That's what's happening now, essentially. People think that depression is a spiritual problem because they do not quite understand it. Now, people try to wish away or explain the things they do not understand instead of seeking to understand it clearly, okay, which is what I'm grateful this kind of program is doing, trying to shed light into what depression really is. It has nothing to do with spiritual forces.
Okay, how do you define this? I mean, when I was doing some research, you find situations or instances where people begin to hear voices. Some of them claim to even hear voices that tell them to do certain things. The hearing of voices, is it a psychological manifestation or otherwise?
It is a psychological manifestation. In fact, there's a kind of depression called psychotic depression, in which the individual is severely depressed and also hears voices. When you talk about hearing voices, hallucinating, auditory hallucination. They could also see things that are not real, visual hallucination. And it's just a problem here, like I said, imbalance in brain chemistry, which could be as a result of several factors. So if you're hearing voices, I've had people say things like, God is asking me to do this, kill myself. I've had people say things like, I'm hearing voices saying I'm not good enough. I'm hearing voices saying I'm worthless. It's depression. As soon as they're placed on medication, how come the evil spirits disappear? Okay, are the medications so powerful as to driving away the evil spirit?
In your professional opinion, are you for or against any means possible to revert to status quo of a patient who claims to be hearing voices? And what do I mean by this? Sometimes to get to the finish line, you need to maybe go through unconventional routes. Some of these patients or people might believe that the solution lies in going to their religious leader or organization or institution to seek redress. What's your take on that?
Like every other medical practitioner, I'd ask you to seek medical advice. I think that when individuals start to look for help in places that they would not get help, it significantly increases their anxiety. They become more anxious, become more worried. Because once you go to a spiritual healer, for example, and then your illness doesn't go away, it increases your level of anxiety. It makes you feel like you're more hopeless. If a man of God cannot solve my problems, who will? We've had people say that before. When their relatives bring them to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they say, I've been to this church, I've been to that place, I've been to this place, nothing has happened. How would this young man solve my problem? But they see that once they're placed on medication or they are placed on the therapy, psychotherapy for weeks or days, they begin to feel better.
What does psychotherapy involve exactly?
Psychotherapy basically is talk therapy. It's a tool used in psychology to help people feel better by just showing them, okay, how to how do I put it now, correct maladaptive thinking, which is something that is a characteristic of depression. Individuals that have irrational thoughts, irrational beliefs, so helping them identify these irrational beliefs, helping them correct it using certain principles in psychology helps significantly, as I said, in combination with medication.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to take this route again. Is there any correlation? I know there's no research or statistics you might have, but has there been an increased number of patients who have been suicidal in the last, I don't know, 1 or 2 years? Is it tied to the economy? Is it tied to, I don't know, social media, where social media gives you the illusion that, oh, my brother next door is okay. Why? Because I see him on Instagram, on Facebook, he's happy, he's smiling. There's no interaction, one-on-one interaction anymore. Everything has gone virtual, so to speak. Do you think there's any correlation between these occurrences and suicide?
I think it's very, very possible, but we have to be careful when we interpret these things. It's not, there's no cause-effect relationship, really. But it is true that a whole lot of people have become increasingly depressed. But I do not want to put it down to economic hardship, because, like you said, this economic hardship has been there, for decades now. But what we could put it down to is that what we're seeing now in terms of incidences is that social media has made it more easy for people to talk about their problems. I like to look at it that way, because people have always had these problems, but they've not really had an outlet to talk about it. So social media is providing a platform for people to talk about their problems more openly.
Which is also a way of is a therapeutic outlet.
Yes, it's a therapeutic outlet.
Let's talk about the solutions now. If somebody is watching, they might not even know that they're depressed. They might not acknowledge the fact that they're depressed. But what are the pointers that you can give to ease your way out of depression, back to the light, so to speak, in bullet points? What can someone do? Or someone who knows someone recommend?
All right, the first thing, if you have depression, is to speak to somebody, because the more you keep it in, the more it eats you. So speaking to someone helps, actually.
What kind of person?
Someone who you could trust, somebody who would not judge you or just ask you to snap out of it, because that's very important. And if you cannot find that person, speak to a psychologist. The truth is that there are not so many psychologists who are practicing, which is one problem, access to mental health care. But there are psychiatrists everywhere. Speak to a psychiatrist. I know the stigma associated with mental health make it difficult for people to approach a psychiatrist. Nobody wants to be tagged mentally ill, but that's what it is. It's a mental illness, and you need to seek help. Another thing you could do is get as much social support as possible. What depression tends to do is to make you not do the things you used to enjoy doing before, make you want to isolate yourself and keep you in the room and not want to talk to people. So try as much as possible to get social support, And then depression also makes you lose appetite. Once you do not eat, you lose energy. So we oftentimes encourage people who are depressed to eat healthy. Eat a lot of food. It helps them manage.
Kachi, thank you very much. Love to talk more about this, but thank you very much for shedding light on the topic. Still rubbing minds, and we're on our final lap, this time from depression to laughter. Trending on social media. Our next guests, or should I say guest, are people who have mastered the art of trending on social media and bringing smiles to millions all across the world. Stick around, we'll be right back after the break.